So first of all, welcome everyone. Welcome to this session today. We have two parts to this meeting. There's going to be a workshop on Canva at the beginning, and towards the end, for the second half, we'll have a panel discussion where you guys will have an opportunity to ask questions to myself and Jade and Ryan as well. So to begin with, I'll be talking about Canva. This is a product that's available, freely available for use to anyone on the internet. It's a platform that allows you to create flyers, and I will show you a few examples of that in this presentation. So like I mentioned earlier, the workshop has two parts. There's the workshop that's from 10 a.m. to 10:45. You'll get to hear from myself, Jade, Ryan, and then I'll come back and talk about some advanced topics, things that you can do in Canva as well. And then we'll have a open out panel discussion. We can all share, and we would like to definitely hear from you guys in terms of some of the things that you're doing in Canva. So the most obvious thing that you can create and the easiest thing to create to help your club is a flyer for instance, that you're doing an open house, maybe you have an area contest or a club contest that's coming up, you have a speechcraft program that your club is running and you'd like to advertise on social media. That's one easy way to do it. And I see a couple of my friends in the audience, and they might recognize this flyer. This was from our last open house season. And this is one of the flyers that I really like because it has quite a number of things that I like to point out to you guys. Yeah, thanks, Rob. So this flyer is for Embassy Toastmasters. And what they've done is they've put a lot of content in here. There are two pictures here. I don't know if you can see it clearly. It's actually a hybrid open house. So you can see a couple of people, sitting at a table in person. There's someone virtually. Has the name of the club. It has a QR code, which is really cool. And it has lots of information. It has the guest speaker also on the flyer. These are a number of things that you might want to have on your flyer. So I'm going to show you a couple of ways that you can even make this flyer even more appealing as well. So if I were designing this flyer, I would probably put the two pictures at the top more prominently in front, and also I would blow up the guest speaker a little bigger so that that's the person that's drawing people to the meeting, so that he's a little more visible. But I just wanted to point that one out. It was really nice design, and the content was totally appropriate. So here's another one that I pulled off the internet for a couple of my friends in Ivory Coast. They're holding a training session, and what I like about this flyer is that it really does prominently show the Toastmasters colors, the fonts, and it's well branded. It's probably designed by someone who does this for a living. So this is one of the flyers that we created for the Bilingual Toastmasters Club. It has, as you can see, the QR code. It has the speakers very prominently. It has the date at the bottom. It has the link. These are very important things. Those are the most important things that someone looking to attend an event, they're looking to know, or they really need to know. How to get there. They need a link or a QR code they can use, and also there's a little more information about the persons who are speaking. So this is another flyer, really nice flyer. However, I really wanted to show this flyer because someone who's just learning Canva, it's easy to really get into all the different things that they can offer. But because we are part of Toastmasters, we have to stick with the brand manual. And I know my friend Jade is going to talk a little bit about that later on. And I just wanted to point out, and I'm going to come back to this flyer. I'm going to show you how we redesigned this flyer in such a way that it's actually brand compliant and also appealing to the viewer. So at this point, I'd like to stop the share, and I'll continue by, I would like to ask everyone to raise your hands if you've actually used Canva, you consider yourself to be an expert, or you consider yourself to be a novice, and what's your comfort level? Maybe I can hear from 1 or 2 people. So we have 1 or 2, 3 persons who've used Canva already. Very good. Okay, thanks. So Canva is a really, it's a really easy product to use, because to use Canva, all you have to do is go to canva.com and you log in, and I'm going to share one of my screens in a second, and I'll show you the actual product. Let me just get a time check. How much time do I have, Mr. Timer? About 5 minutes, I'm guessing. Okay, let me just share my screen quickly. I don't hear or see the timer, but just
6 minutes, sorry.
Oh, okay, 6 minutes, wonderful. So when you log into Canva, this is the interface that you will see. You can, to log in, it's gonna give you an option. You go to, it already recognizes me, so it takes me straight in, but you can actually use your Google login or your Facebook account to log in to Canva. It automatically takes you in. And as you can see, once you've created content, it comes up in your recent designs. So I'll just quickly use a couple of minutes to show you. First of all, I was talking about that design that I created, where I took the previous design and I try to make it a little more brand compliant. Could you guys see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. I'm just trying to. Okay, so it's very important to use the correct fonts. There are a number of fonts in Canva that are compatible with the Toastmasters brand fonts. And I know Jade is going to talk about the brand manual, so I'm not going to spend a lot of time on that. But that's one thing you have to be aware of. The font colors are very important. To change the color, you can just click on the text that you're working on, and you have a choice of the colors here. Also, the background, it's the same thing. To change the color, you can change the background color there. When you design a flyer, one of the things you want to take cognizance of is not to have like too much content there. Let me see if I can switch to one of the older versions of this design. Maybe I have it in here. Stop share. Let me share this again. Yeah, so I'm showing you the previous version of the same flyer. And there's a couple of things here that I wanted to point out. First of all, in the Toastmasters brand manual, you're only allowed to use certain colors. And it's the maroon, you have the cool gray, the royal blue, and the color that's called happy yellow. So I'm not going to go into the specifics of that, just to point out that certain fonts are not part of the brand manual. We're not allowed to use certain fonts like these ones here. And also, there's a couple of things you want when you design the flyer. You want to make it appealing. I think it's a little too busy in terms of the number of images. So what I did, I removed the 2 images. I just left 1 picture. Also, there's things to be cognizant of in terms of the logo. According to the Toastmasters brand manual, you have to leave enough space around the logo. And also, I'll switch back to my other screen and show you that instead of having the entire link for your content, you can use a tool that allows you to shorten this link there. So I'll just switch back. Okay, here it is. Wonderful. So like you can see, there's 1 image that takes the focal point. There's also some information on your event. It has the information. It's actually repeated. It says Toastmasters leadership, and I made the word program a little smaller. It says it's 10 weeks. It shows the length of the time, and this is where you can see the happy yellow. This is the maroon, and I didn't use the royal blue. You don't have to use all of the colors, the main colors. And so that's just an example of how you can sort of use this tool to do some of that. So when we get into some of the other sections, you'll see how in Canva you can actually use these attributes in here. I'll just give you a quick overview. This section allows you to use templates, but because Toastmasters is so strict in terms of what you can use and what you can't use, I'd recommend not to use these templates. If you do, then you try to modify it in such a way that you're using all of the correct colors and fonts and so on. Elements, I know Ryan is going to talk about this as well, and how to upload. You can, once you have an image on your computer, you can literally drag it onto here, and then you can use it in your design. You can just drag it across here like that. It's very, very, very simple. You can also add audio, you can add video, you can add background effects to your design. Let me just quickly do a time check. See how we're doing. Oh, I can see I have a red. Okay. So at this point, I think I shared quite a bit about how to get a start in terms of Canva, how to log in, how to start creating your content. And I don't know if there's any questions. I'm willing to take any questions before passing it over to Jade.
So Sandra has a question in the chat. Sandra, would you like to unmute and ask it, or do you want me to read it?
Sure, I'm happy to ask. It seems to me that Toastmasters International should have, or somebody, maybe you, could create a Toastmaster template with all the proper colors and fonts already in there, so that we can just simply go in and work from that. Is that possible?
Yeah, so I like the question. It's a wonderful question. When I found out about Canva about maybe 2 years ago or a year and a half ago, when I was we were launching a new club, and I was really frustrated because I was trying to use all these graphics tools, and every time I added a graphic to the image, then I had to restart or go back and redo the image. In Canva, it allows you to use all these blocks, like you can see the flags. If I want to change the flags around, I can just click on it and delete it, drag another flag in there. It's very, very useful. So the idea that I had since back then is to create kind of like groups, where in Canva allows you to create groups, allows you to create teams as well. The drawback with teams is teams are tied to the license. So Canva is a free product, But if I create a team with 10 persons, then it's tied to the licensing. But I can create groups. For instance, I can create an open house group. So anytime I create a new design, I can share it with the group. The idea behind Canva is to give you the power to create your own content. So you don't want to have a flyer that's just like every other club's flyer. So we would give you the templates, and then you can go in and totally modify that. So to answer the question, yes, I would definitely love to provide a few of those. And I already have your email addresses if you'd like to receive a few designs that we've created. Like all of those designs I've created, they're available. I can add you to a group, and then I can share those out with the group. I saw one other hand. Did I answer the question, Sandra?
Yes, and something like that's going to be very, very helpful, because I know Monique is here as well from the club, and we really will be struggling techie. So do you want me to add in the yes, please, that, or will you just send that out to everybody that's attending today?
I'll send it out to everyone.
Thank you.
Yes.
And a question, please.
Yes, Bernadette, and I actually saw Ross's hand up first, and so Ross.
All right.
Thank you, Leslie. Speaking of techies and limited abilities, I assume we download this from the internet. It's not a Toastmaster product. Is that correct?
It's not a download. It's like Gmail, where you just have to log in and it's right there.
Okay. And can you then download the flyers you create? And my main question is there an instruction manual with this thing, or instructions somewhere to do this? Or is it something you have to know instinctively, as many of them are?
Yeah, so that's a really good question, Ross. How I learned Canva is just by Googling. I have a good friend, he lives in Saudi, and he creates a whole bunch of videos. I can put a link in the chat to some of his videos that are Canva is super simple. It's kind of like using Gmail or,
everything's super simple once you learn how to do it.
Yeah, I think once you log in and you play around, they actually have a lot of pre-built content. So you can just drag like some of those templates and you can play around with it. The only problem with Toastmasters is because we have the brand manual, it's important that you take it to the next level by figuring out which fonts to use, which colors to use, and things like that, and what can go on. Like you can add cartoons. I would recommend that everyone takes a look at the brand manual, because that's super important. Because there are things like cartoons you can't put on on your flyer, and you can't put anything that's against the brand manual in terms of content.
And if it ain't yours, you can't use it without permission.
Exactly, that's correct, totally. So I'll take Bernadette and then I'll go to Eva. Bernadette.
Leslie, I just wanted to mention that in the chat, I put a link to how to learn Canva.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Canva's website actually has videos and documents.
Very good. Thanks, Ryan.
All right. Leslie, thank you very much for this opportunity. I have two questions, please. One is whether you can insert a link that you can click on Canvas and it takes the recipient directly to the, say for example, a Zoom link.
Yeah.
Question number two is if you already have a template which you created for an X event and you want to replicate that template for a Y event, how do you do that? Not necessarily modifying the X event, because when you modify that you can't undo, right? So how do you create a copy of an existing template? Thank you.
Yeah, that's super. Thank you, Bernadette, for the question. That's super easy. I can show you, but I suspect that's going to come up when Ryan started, so you can get back. Yeah, that's going to come up when Ryan is doing his presentation. So all you have to do is go into your design and you can say duplicate, or you can, from the main screen, you can just right click on it and say duplicate. And in terms of the link, it depends on how you're saving the image. So for instance, this image behind me is a It's
Can you share the screen, please? We're not seeing what you're talking about.
Oh, you want to see? Oh, I was talking about the virtual background. The virtual background is just an image, but I can also save it as a video, so it's actually moving and has animation. If you're creating a flyer, you can create the flyer as a PDF. If you want to make it clickable, you can create it as a PDF, and you can insert a link in there. And I'll just leave the show and tell in terms of that for later on, because I know that's going to come up under advanced topics. I want to give Eva the last opportunity to ask a question, and then we'll go to our next session with Jade.
Hi, Leslie. I know I think you mentioned me. So I think we can talk about it in the advanced topic, but I had a flyer which was not created by me, but for me for some previous event, and I can't find the source. So I tried to edit it using Canva, but because it's in JPEG format, I was unable to take away the elements and put them in a different design. So is there a way, or am I stuck with it?
Right. So if someone created a design, like the design for the youth leadership program that I showed you guys earlier, that was created by a friend who actually sent the actual design to us. We initially got it in terms of JPEG, which is a graphic image. You cannot edit that because it's just a bitmap of a picture. But if you get if that person shares you the image, the design, then you can edit it. And so in that case, the most you can do is like cut and paste parts of the design, but that's not very useful. You cannot sort of move objects around. So at this point, I'd like to bring up our next presenter, who's going to talk about brand manual and anything else that she wants to talk about in Canva. Over to Jade, who is our social media manager. She's very awesome. If you go to Facebook, you go to Instagram, you see lots of content there, really beautiful designs. And I'm really happy that she's here to give us some perspective in terms of how to use Canva. So over to you, Jade.
Thank you very much, Leslie. So as Leslie previously mentioned, Toastmasters does have an amazing brand manual that's quite detailed, which is very helpful for us as Toastmasters. So let me bring up my screen. So this is one of the pages. I should probably go to the beginning. The pages that I'm going to be talking about today are the page that talks about the colors for the brand of Toastmasters, the fonts, the how to get images, and obviously the logo. So starting off with the color, Leslie already mentioned it. If you go down to page 12 in the brand manual, you'll be able to see, we're getting there. Okay, we'll be able to see the colors. So the easy thing about Toastmasters is they actually have the hex color directly in this document. So you don't have to go searching, being like, is this the right color? Is this the right color? The hex color is literally right here. You would copy it and then paste it into your document under, well, they're already all here, but go here to documents and then literally paste, and then you'll get that maroon color that is mentioned. So you can do that for each color and then save it into Canva so that you don't have to do that every single time. You'll see here the three primary colors is the maroon, the royal blue, and the cool gray. The accent color, so for text, is happy yellow. So it's quite self-explanatory. If you guys have any questions about it, this brand manual goes into more details. I'm just showing you the most important pages, in my opinion, for the color, logo, fonts, and images. The next page, going a bit out of order, is the logo page. TI, under their resources tab on their website, has the logos that you can download and then keep on your computer and also upload them to Canva, which I believe Ryan will be showing you how to do that a bit later on. With that, there are 5 pages in the brand manual that talk about the logo, but this one I think is the most, once you download the logos, is the most prevalent because it shows you how you are allowed to and how you are not allowed to use the logos for TI or for branding Toastmasters content. So I'm going to see if there's any questions I can answer now. Yes, thank you, Ryan, for uploading it. And thank you, Leslie, for uploading the brand manual. The third page we're going to be talking about is page 17 in the brand manual, which talks about the fonts. Leslie mentioned that there are fonts that are allowed in that are complementary to these fonts, that if you go here, you can access, you can see that they're called the Montserrat fonts. So there are, as I mentioned, 3 fonts. Well, in Toastmasters, you're allowed 3 main fonts to put into your Canva account as the font categories. So what I did was I did the original font, the light version, and then the medium version, just so that we have a bit to play with. And then obviously from there, you guys can use them as often as you want. You can also evidently just type in here if you want to use another allowed variation of it, like ultra, black, bold, medium, etc., extra light and thin. That is also beneficial. And how's my timing coming, Stephen? Where are you? Stephen.
5 minutes.
You're doing well.
Okay, so last thing is the images, which I'm going to talk about very quickly and then pass the mic back over to Leslie. So that is on page 20. And when you go there, this page is very beautiful, but all you have to do is click this link and then you'll get to Toastmasters gallery of all the images that are allowed to be used. So from here, you can choose any image from here to add into your designs. Once that's added, maybe this is the wrong one because I thought there are categories within categories. So Toastmasters designed a gallery where there are images per year. So like 20 images, 2019, 2018. And then from there, you can choose any image, download it. What I like to do once I download it is I like to write down the number of the image so that I don't re-download because I have a bad tendency to do that. But yeah, you can use any and all images approved by TI, and that makes your job easier because then you don't have to take images during your sessions. You can just use the pre-approved TI images and then go from there. So are there any questions? I know I went through that quite quickly because I had 5 minutes. Would all the fonts mentioned be available in Canva? Yes, so all the fonts are available in Canva. If you click that link on page 17 of the brand manual, you'll be able to see all the complementary fonts. The Gotham font, sorry, are not in Canva, but complementary ones that are TI approved are. Oh, and Bernadette actually answered that sorry. Thank you, Bernadette. How to change capital letter with small letters. Naja asked me that personally. Okay. What about using club images, not necessarily the pre-uploaded images by TI? Leslie, you might want to answer about that more.
Yeah. So I personally prefer to use my own images. The only thing is just try to make sure the images are very clear and they're not like for an event where you're sitting at a bar with your buddies from the Toastmasters Club. It's better to have, according to the brand manual, the images should show persons in a professional environment, probably speaking in the club meeting or in that type of professional setting. The reason why I like to use my own images is because it's more relatable. If I see an image of Robert, you know, in a meeting presenting, it's more relatable than a random person from the TI website. But at the same time, that's the reason why that's a kind of like a personal preference. And also, if you're posting something on Facebook in a District 123 Facebook page, it's your design would be more relatable if the person's in the audience, you know, if they know that person or if they have some kind of relationship to that person. So that's what I would say. Hope that answers the question. And I see two more questions for Jade.
Yes, so Nikita, first of all.
Hi, thanks so much. Leslie. I do like to use personal photos, but I'm just curious if anybody knows if TI will be or is planning to update some of the images to be more COVID relevant, because I know there's no distancing and handshaking and all that stuff that might send the wrong message to people if we are using the other images. So any thoughts or comments on that front?
Yeah, so that gallery that I showed you actually wasn't the complete gallery. There is one that, I don't know why, maybe I looked at the wrong brand manual for this morning's presentation, but there is tons of photos that show people in the 2020 and 2020 version, at least in the 2020 folder, you'll see images of people on computers, people, the hashtag #MyWhy, which was amazing to see considering that that was our first challenge in our district, 1, 2, 3. You'll see tons of content that you'll be able to use that will show the right feeling. But as well, I know right now we're back to all virtual, but when it gets back to that hybrid, showing that contrast of, yes, we are virtual, but there is also hybrid is good. Obviously right now there is no hybrid, but hopefully a couple months down the line, there will be hybrid once again. So hopefully that answers your questions.
Yeah, I just want to mention one thing. I heard someone say that when you show pictures of gallery view, it's not as appealing. I personally find that I actually like to, I mean, you can spruce it up, you can, you know, move the images around, but it also shows another component to your design, and it allows you to have more people in your picture. So if you're trying to make your design relatable, it's a good way to present your club. And like Jade said, there's a lot of new images that they've added to the Toastmasters brand manual and the website. So that's a really good improvement.
And Ross, you've had your hand raised for a
Yes,
while.
thank you, Jade. I have a question and a comment about Leslie's comment about using your own images. May I stress to the utmost level that you do not use photographs of people unless you have their approval to do so.
Exactly. Thank you, Ross.
That has caused all kinds of troubles around the world of Toastmasters. So be very careful of that. By all means, use your own images, but make sure you have written permission to do so if there are of other club members. Otherwise, it's a great idea. My question to you, Jade, was about a comment that Leslie made earlier on about using a QR code on comments. Does the brand manual cover that at all? And or what would you put in a QR code to have people scan it anyway?
Yeah, so the QR code we might talk about it in the advanced session. The brand manual does, yes, I do still have the brand manual up, does mention QR codes. As I mentioned, the document is 37 pages, so I can't quite talk about which page it's on. Okay, it is allowed because with QR codes, it just makes, especially in this virtual world that we live in, sorry, I'm just searching the brand manual while we're talking. It does make stuff easier just with the click of a button, being able to go to which page, but logo placement, images. Sorry, I'm looking on the contents page to figure out what page it's on. Back to content, logo.
So I can I can just jump in there while
Yes.
Jade is taking a look at that. The nice thing about QR code, I'll just give you an example. I went to Mexico recently, and every piece of document that they had, for instance, the flyers, there are all these different promotions. Even in the hotel, there's QR codes. And what's nice about QR codes is you can just take your cell phone, you can point it to the QR code, and it automatically takes you to the link. I actually got that idea when I was invited to Robert's open house, because they had the QR code on the flyer, and I thought that was really cool, and it's really useful because instead of me having to type out the bit.ly or the URL, I can just point, click, and I have the information right away.
Yeah, so I will have to get back in touch with you guys about what page the QR code info is on. I know it isn't allowed and it is included. And at the beginning of this Toastmaster year, so back in July, I read the whole brand manual front to back, which if you are a VP of PR of your club, I strongly suggest you do if you have not already. There are also videos, one per year from TI, talking about the brand manual. So those are 2 resources, and I will get back in touch with at least Ross, if not the whole group, about the page of the QR code and the place in that video of last year's video that talks about QR codes being allowed, because I think it was mentioned in the video as well.
That I have prepared for this event. The first thing I was going to talk about was choosing Canva sizes. So if we went back to the home page of Canva, which is loading right now, the first thing you'll see at the very top is where you could choose all your canvas sizes. And you could actually say, I want to create, for example, something for social media. And you could actually go and find something for Instagram, and it tells you the sizes here. So you could actually do an Instagram post, or it could be a story, or it could be an Instagram ad. It depends on what you want to do, and you choose. And the same goes for Facebook. You have options and other, so the popular ones, Instagram and Facebook. You could also do videos. This is going to be a little more advanced. I'll let Leslie talk on that later on, but you could also determine what size you want for videos. But I'm going to stick to flyers. And the last thing I was going to mention before we start and do something in a flyer is you could also customize. So if you want to create a flyer that is a specific dimension that you want, you could also decide if you wanted to do it in inches, millimeters, or centimeters, and you could choose the width and height. And you could create from scratch. So what I'm going to do for the sake of this demonstration is jump to a design that I've already worked on and modify it so you could see some of the things you could do in Canva. So here's my presentation. This is something that we used for an event last year, and I modified it a little bit, changed the pictures because, like Ross was saying, I want to use something pictures that I'm allowed to use, and these are all free pictures that you get from Canva. I'll speak more about that later. I also want you to see this as a very simple design that we're going to modify, and I'm going to start by actually talking about how I got the photos into this design. And then I'm going to kind of modify it. As you can see, this is the product where we're going to modify it to look like this again. So what we're going to do is I'm going to explain, first of all, how to upload artifacts, how to upload photos. So you have 2 options, but it's very simple. And what you can do is, the first thing is you could go to uploads, and from here you could actually say upload media, and you could actually go and find something. For example, I could use this PNG, and you'll see that it will load. So it's loading. So this is the presentation that I created. So that's a good way of doing an upload. However, there's a faster way. What you can do is you could actually go to your desktop and drag and drop. And that's how I would really recommend. So right now, you might not see my actual desktop, but you'll see that right now I'm hovering over Canva, and it actually is showing you that I could drop a file. And now I'm going to drop a file into Canva. and you'll see it load. So here's a photo that I just uploaded. The same thing can be done for graphics. So, or this is another photo, but this is a Toastmaster logo because Jay talked about it. I also wanted to bring that in. And it's really simple. You could do the same for videos and you could do the same for audio. The tabs are all here. And I think that's pretty straightforward. Now, if you wanted to get this photo onto the page, I'm going to show that to you shortly. And it's simple as dragging and dropping. For example, I could just take that photo, I could take that image, resize it, and put it onto the page. Now, I'm not gonna style this or anything. It's just, I wanted to show you how to bring the product, how to bring the photo onto the page. And it's as simple as that. So once you get those two steps, upload it and how to drag it onto the page, you're 50% of the way there, because now it's just for you to continue to do that process and then tweak and modify, add text, add fonts, and I could actually show that later. The next thing I wanted to show you is how to add frames to an image. So these photos are inside of a frame. If I press delete, I click on the photo and then I press delete, you'll see that this actual landscape is actually a frame. The same goes for this one as well. It is a frame. And I'll explain to you how to get that on the page in 2 seconds. But if I wanted to change that photo now, what I can do is drag and drop that photo into the frame. And what that frame does is actually basically frames the photo to exactly the shape that it is, which is a circle. So the frame is a circle, so your photo will be a circle. So that's a great way to kind of, I'm going to say the word maybe crop or modify your image so it takes on the shape of the frame. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go to my blank screen to show you how to add a frame to Canva. If you click on elements in the left-hand side and you scroll all the way to the bottom, you'll see something titled frame. You have an option also to see all frames. So you could actually open this up even bigger. And what you can do is just drag and drop. And then the purpose of the frame is to add a photo to it. So you could take a photo, drag and drop, and these are all free photos from Canva that I'm using. And now you have the option to modify by just dragging the image size and moving it to wherever you want. Very basic, but I just wanted to let you see how that works. Now, there is also something called grids, where again, it allows you to drag and drop. And I'm going to leave that there just so you understand that you have options of layering. And I'm just going to drag a photo here. That's one photo. And I'm going to drag another photo over here. Now, the purpose of this is you could use this frame however you want. You could modify it. You could drag and drop it. All you do is grab the corners. And you can move the photos inside a frame. So for example, this lady earlier wasn't centered. So I'm going to bring her back to her original size, which was pretty big. See how she's off centered? What you can do now is double click and move her to be centered so that you get her the way that you want. I'm not going to work on the exact making her in the middle, but I think you get the point. You have the options to move and move the photo around. And you also have the option to layer, for example, on top of each other. So if you wanted to create a certain desired effect. And for my finale, what I was going to do was show you now exactly what I just showed you in the last screen on my actual flyer that I started off with. So I'm going to try to somewhat recreate this flyer over here by just going down to the bottom again, elements, click on elements, go all the way down to frames. You could drag that frame here and fit it into the area that you want it to be fit into. And I'm not going to go exact. It's just for you to get an idea. And then what I'm going to do is now go to photos. And again, I'm going to grab a photo that I want to place in there. and I'm going to move him to exactly where I want him to be by just double clicking. All you got to do is, it's either drag and drop or double click. That's how simple Canva is. And then you actually have your photo now inside your frame. So for the finale, what I was going to do is I'm going to now create a shape, because we haven't talked about that yet. That gray area around the photo is a shape. And if you go all the way up, you'll see line and shapes. And you have a button here called See All. If you click on that, you'll have now a multitude of shapes that you could drag and drop to your actual canvas. And you could actually minimize, or sorry, reduce the size to whatever size you want. Now, you really only have to do this once, and I'll explain that in 2 seconds, but I'm not going to worry about the size. Just pretend that all my sizes are the same, but I have a trick for that for you in the future. Then I'm going to go back to elements, because now I want to add my photo. And yes, I know that the color is different, and I'll show you how to change that in a second. I'm now going to grab my frame. I'm going to now take that frame and I'm going to fit it to the size of my border. So we'll use that roughly as the size. And then we did this already, but I'll show you again. We're now going to take a different photo, this one right here, and we're just going to drag and drop it into that frame. And ta-da, you're done. Now you say, well, I don't want to do that 3 times for every single photo that I want to do. So I'll show you a quick trick. Quick trick is, all you got to do is make this do one of these. And then what you can do is a Control V, cut and paste. Boom, you have one. Control V again, you have another one. So now the proportions and everything is the same. You now could just now have the option. Thank you, Stephen. I see the time. You now have the option of taking a photo and copying over the existing one. And then you could take another photo. I'm going to say this one, and modify it and adjust it to where it needs to be. And now symmetrically, you have the same size, shape of photos and everything, even text. And last but not least, since I didn't show you how to get text on the page, because I'm pretty sure you're probably asking that question as well. So I believe, Mark, I answered your question. You have the option of taking, what I do is I take one of these default texts. I make sure that, again, it's Montserrat, as you see right here. I then can type words in there if my computer responds, but there we go. So I could type Kate, and I could move that text now to underneath here. Of course, I would make it the same height and color as the text below, but just for the purposes of understanding how text gets to the page, that's how you get the text underneath the person's image. And the one last thing I'll show you is, if you looked at the colors, I also have the options to click on the element. So you'll see the square will highlight the element that you're using. And in the top here, you'll see the color that is chosen. And I have the paid version of Canva, but if I wanted, so I actually have the brand colors here. I don't have to type them in every time. And if I wanted to change the color of the circle, that's how I do it. Or I could go and type in the code for the color and then apply it to the image. And that's my demo on how to add shapes, how to add frames, how to upload artifacts to Canva, and how to choose Canva size. And at this point, I will be sending it back to Leslie.
Wow, that was really wonderful, Ryan. Very beautiful presentation. I like the flyer that you showed about the inclusion impact presentation or seminar. And I would like to give us an opportunity to hear from our audience if you have any questions for Ryan or myself or Jade, specifically on the topic that Ryan presented. And then in the time that we have remaining, we have about 30 minutes remaining, we'll do a little more Q&A, and I'll show you some advanced topics, and then we'll go to Q&A. Bernadette.
Hi, Leslie. I have a question with regards to the colors. For instance, when you copy the picture and you put in the flyer, and then you probably want to change the background color to match with the brand, and then you realize by error you click red and you want to undo that. How do you quickly undo that? Because I find it difficult to, like, you can't undo, you have to go over it again.
Okay, so yeah, go ahead, Ryan.
It's
Yeah, sure.
I think I'm on, my mic's not. So it's actually real simple. Whatever you want to do, for example, the circle, hopefully it's big enough, but that circle, I'm going to use the text because you'll see that more clear.
Show the background.
The background, yeah. So the background, for example, once I click on the background, it goes blue. Sorry, yeah, this box up here, the background color is blue. So you click on that, and let's just say you chose red by accident, like you said, then it's as simple as just going and choosing the right color that you want, whether it's gray, whether it's yellow, whether it's not going to be pink because it's not branded, but whether it's maroon, you have the option of actually just adjusting that color. So it's not final when you click on it, it's final when you decide to save and download. And I guess, Leslie, that's probably something you should show everyone at the end of the presentation, because there's many options of what formats you could download into.
So why don't you send it, you have the screen up, why don't you show it now, because we're into the advanced topics.
Sure. So let's say we're going back to blue and we're happy with the way this flyer is. I'm going to change this back to blue for symmetry, gray for symmetry. And then I'm going to say download. What occurs here is you have the option of different formats, and Canva gives you ideas of what these formats are for and the quality of them. For our purposes, we'll save this as a JPEG because we're going to share this on Instagram and maybe through email. So we would click JPEG, but you'll also see that you have an option for the size. You have the option for quality, and those could be adjusted. And these are the things you could just play with. Some of it's preference. Some of it is going to be a standard that you want for your images. And then you have the options of what you want to download. So you could choose one, or you could choose everything. And for me, I'm going to choose everything, and I'm going to say download. So I'm going to click done. If you don't want to have to keep on making these settings, recreating these settings every time you download, you could actually save them, and then you could just say download. When you do that, it will download the presentation, and you should see on my screen right here, it got downloaded. I could say open, and on my desktop, which you can't see right now, the file has opened, and I could just double click on it and open it. It's downloads are that simple, and to do that, because we created a beautiful flyer, it'll be good to now understand how you could get that flyer and use it. Back to you, Leslie.
Yeah, thank you very much, Ryan. Do I have any other questions for Ryan before I go into some more advanced topics? Malti, I see your hands up.
Yeah, so can Ryan show us how to minimize the links or shorten the links in the flyers?
Yeah, I think that's part of, Leslie, are you going to use
Yeah,
Bitly?
I can show you that.
Okay.
Any other questions? So let me just jump in. I don't see any more hands up. So let me share my screen quite quickly. Because we are taking questions throughout this session, I think we're doing well because we're allowing the Q&A in between. So in terms of timing, I think we are okay. So I'll just show you guys. Let me see if I can hide my gallery view somewhere that's now blocking me. Okay, wonderful. Could you guys hear me properly?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, just want to make sure I'm not speaking into mute. So this is my home screen, and it shows a number of designs that I've created. So I'm just going to take you through a couple of these. So this is an event. So this so one of the things you might be doing in your club is, what you might ask a question, what if we don't want to stick to the, you know, the 4 colors that Toastmasters allow us to use in the fonts? Let's say you're having an event with your club members, and it's not necessarily sort of like a meeting. You can create a design, but you're not allowed to put the logo or the word Toastmasters anywhere there. So this is one event that we did for a book club that we had. We wanted to sort of like really showcase the author and how to connect, but we didn't we don't want to be constrained by the colors of Toastmasters. That's something you can actually do. But just remember, if you're going outside of the colors and so on, just make sure you remove any logos or any reference to Toastmasters. So I just wanted to show that one. I'll show a few more that I've created. And so this is another one that we've created. And the reason why I'm showing this is because this one actually has animation. And you might want to know, oh, how do you do animation? So this, I'll just do a, oh, come on, just stop sharing for 1 second and share again. Where's my share button? Okay, let me just start that again. I'll just make it a little bigger. Can you guys see that?
Yes.
Right, so this is a Facebook campaign we did when we were trying to promote one of the new Toastmasters clubs. What Canva allows you to do is to use animation. So we animated the text on here. We wanted to create a transition between the 2 speakers. Because this is digital, we're now in a digital world, and there's a lot more things we can do as opposed to previously when you're just handing out a flyer. You can actually animate your content to make it more more appealing to the user. And you can also include, instead of cluttering the one page, you can actually show the first speaker on the first page, the second speaker. And also, if you notice, the first page is in English. I'm getting confused with the languages. The second one is the content is in French. And on the third page is a lot more information about each speaker. And then it goes to the final page, which shows you the QR code and the registration link in a more prominent way. So if you try to do all of that in one screen, it would be super cluttered, but by using animation, it allowed you to do this very easily. And how you to do this, you say, for instance, if you want to animate the text, as you can, I'll show this again, you can see the text is actually moving. To do that, it's very simple. You just highlight the text and you say effects, and you say the type of animation that you would like to use. To create a second screen to have a transition between the first and second and third, you just have to say add page, and that would allow you to have a second page. Then just like Ryan showed you, I have all kinds of pictures here. I just drag and drop the pictures onto the page. It allows me to have the speakers very prominently. I can say who the person is, their role, what they're talking about, and I can, have that in whichever language that is relevant. So that's one I'd like to show you guys. And the QR code, yeah, Bernadette asked a question about how to add the link. So I use a tool called Bitly, and it's right here. I'll just show you this because we're now in the advanced section. So Bitly is a super useful tool, and it's a little outside of the workshop, and we're talking about Canva, but Bitly is a free product. You can just go to bitly.com and you can say create. It allows you to create a link. So when I was helping to redesign this flyer, there was this really long link, and what I did, I just came in here and I just said create. It allowed me to put in the long URL. I say save. Once you say save, it allows you to put in a short format. So instead of putting on the entire link, let me see if I can find the actual one. I don't see it, but I'd like to show you one more thing before I go to that. One of the benefits of using Bitly is that it allows you to, okay, so this is the link that I created yesterday. It allows you to see how many persons have actually gone to that presentation. So this is a link for the Canva presentation that we're using. And sure why I'm not seeing the link. I can look here. Never mind. So what I'm trying to show here is that in here, once you create a Bitly link, it actually shows you how many persons clicked, and you can actually get some graphical analysis in terms of how the persons were connecting to your website. So let me quickly show you, before we go into the Q&A, a few more things that you can do. This is a virtual background. So when you're creating content, if you go to the home page, Ryan showed this before, but you can actually scroll across here, and it has some different types of objects that you can create. You can say zoom virtual background. When you say zoom virtual background, it allows you to create a virtual background similar to the one that I have here. It allows you to add the graphic and the Toastmaster image. You can make it branded, and you can put whatever else you want, just like the one that I showed you earlier that I use in my presentations. So those are a couple, and maybe I'll show you maybe one more just to round out the time. Yeah, I'll just show you this one. So I created this for this design for a conference that we had in France, and I repurposed it for, I just used the same design for the new club that we created. And this is where you can see you have all these objects. You can drag and drop. You can add from your download library. You have pictures. You can drag the images onto here. So if, for instance, the club gets a new member from a different country, we can add the flag just to represent that we've added new members from somewhere else around the world. So at this point, I'd like to stop share, go back to my gallery view, and ask if there are any questions on any advanced topics that you'd like me to talk about before we go into the Q&A section. I see Juan Olea. En español o? Mr. Juan Olea, I think you're on mute.
How are you? Thank you for having me. No, it's a question that a friend of mine and I have regarding, I think I sent it privately to you. It's about like the issue, like sometimes if you get reels and try to make it in that you can see more stuff, like people sometimes don't see it as the whole reel, and we want to see if there is any way we can put it to get more engagement.
Right, you mean in terms of the content, the text on the flyer?
Yeah, like I don't know if you see the question. I think I sent it privately.
Okay. Yeah, so I would say if you're creating a flyer, try not to have too much text in the flyer because it depends on where you're putting it out. If it's a printed flyer, then you can probably add a little more information, but do not crowd it. Just use the key elements, the key message that you're trying to convey. Yes, we're having a seminar. You must put the date, make it very bold. Must have the link, or a QR code is even better because you can just scan that. If you have bit.ly, you can put the link there so it's easier for the persons. And also you want to say what's the theme of the meeting or the presentation, but don't try to put all of the objectives. Don't try to put too much information in the flyer because it makes it cluttered and it's not as appealing to the eyes. So that's my response to that. I see, I see Eva, Nikita, and Eva Britton. So Eva.
Thank you, Leslie, for taking my question. I did have a question, and I think Eva had the same question, is where do you find those pictures of the virtual settings on TI? I was in there and it's very limited amount of pictures that are in there for download. So I was just wondering if there's an additional link to those, if you wouldn't mind sharing.
Yeah, so why don't I'll let Jade do a quick search and she can put that in the chat box for you guys. But I also have the same grievance when I create flyers. I find that there's not enough virtual imagery in there. There's a lot for in-person meetings, but not enough. But the nice thing about Canva is that it does have a lot of free pictures that you can use. And so I would encourage you to also look there. Of course, you don't want to have pictures of someone, eating in a bar or, having a beer with their buddies on your flyer, even though, it might be like a party that you're promoting. You want to just stick with the, colors of, something professional there. Nikita.
Thank you.
Thanks. Not a question, but just a comment to the earlier question about the Reels. There are the templates for the Reels available in Canva, and one of the recommendations I would say is to, when you are creating the content, to kind of also use the Instagram video placement, because depending on how people are viewing the Reels, the amount of information you see is different. If someone is going through their Instagram feed and it's coming up as a Reel, they'll see the little clips for the video size, but they won't actually see a lot of the information contained in the Reel until they click it in that Reel format. So that could also be a reason why people are missing the information, because they're not actually opening the Reel to interact with it, but just engaging with the content directly from their feed. So that is just some food for thought when you are creating in terms of the placement. Think of the Instagram video size and try to put all the relevant information in that field of view versus using the whole scope of the Reels. Thanks.
Very good. Very good. Yeah, I remember I used to have that issue as well when I was creating open house flyers. And then I realized that in Canva, if you specify the size, the purpose of the design, for instance, you can say, I want to create an Instagram post, just like how I showed you how you can specify that you're creating a Zoom virtual background. You don't have to worry about the actual size because Canva already has that size. So I think that might be able to help you in terms of the sizing for your Instagram posts. I'm not very familiar with Instagram, but that's probably something that you might want to look at. And now I see Eva. You're on mute.
Sorry, I couldn't unmute myself for a second. Okay, the bit.ly piece, and that's very helpful. And I have checked the post that Stephen did regarding the information on the QR codes, but how do you actually create a QR code so you can put it on your page if that's what you want to do?
Yeah, so there's a QR, if you Google create QR codes, there's software that you can do it for free. There is, I think Bitly also allows you to create a QR code. The ones that I use, I've just used the free software to create the QR codes. I don't do it very often, so I can put the link there for you if you would like to have that, or I can send that out as part of the email that I'm going to send out at the end of this, in terms of how useful utilities for, creating a flyer.
And Stephen did put a link, which
Wonderful.
I'll actually put from Toastmasters International. I'll send it again, just so everyone has it.
Wonderful. Yeah, so there's so many utilities online nowadays. And I just like to mention one thing, that Canva is a free software. It's a free platform for you to use. You don't have to pay for it. However, there are certain designs, there are certain photos that are actually, I don't remember the exact terminology that they use, but they're paid. You have to pay maybe $1 to download those designs. However, if you have the license, you would have access to all of the paid content. But for the most part, I've never actually had the licensed version. So there's a ton of content that's available for free in Canva. So are there any other questions? There are no other questions. I can go back and show you a few more items. We have 14 minutes left on the time that we scheduled this workshop and QA. I know we've been taking some questions in between, so that allowed us to balance the meeting. I see a question from Robert.
Yeah, hi, Leslie. Great presentation, by the way, from all the presenters, so well done. Question for you, for clubs that are debating and I know you kind of briefly touched on it, but for clubs that are debating, do we go with the free version or the pro version? What would you recommend?
Yeah, so that's a really good question. So I would recommend to start using it right away. And if you're already using it, and think about how many people are going to use the designs. And it might be, if you have the money, you can afford to have the licenses, you can probably go to, at least begin with one person having the license. But the thing I would say to look at is, once you start creating teams, then the licensing is tied to the team. So you'd have to probably break the teams up in order to implement the licensing. So if, for instance, you had 5 persons that are on the team, once you go for the paid version, you have to cover all of those. So you have to break them up, and then you can do the licensing for an individual person or 2 persons, and then you can move ahead like that. But Canva, for the most part, I think I hardly ever have a need for content that's not free.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Leslie, a technical question, and sorry to jump the gun.
No,
when we go back to the Canva and say what I have done, because I couldn't use the Canva easily, I have created templates for myself in PowerPoint. And the way I have done it is, let's say, a slide with a background in one of the Toastmaster colors, and the next slide, and then I can reuse it. When I want to do it in Canva, does it happen automatically, or do I have to kind of create my own templates? I know when you or Ryan were on the screen, there was a section where you already have the Toastmasters branded colors. So how did you get it in?
Oh, yeah. So that's a really good question. I think I can share my screen and show you some of the magic there. So for instance, your question was about a number of things. One is about the brand colors. So when you, let's say for instance, I wanted to add another color. So I am very cheap. So I have the basic version, which just allows me 3 colors. I can change one of these colors, or I can add another color. If I want to add another color, 4th color, I would have to either pay for it, or I have to just, you know, just keep it somewhere that I can remember, like the yellow. So to add a new color, I can actually type in the hex for that color. So I know the hex for happy yellow, it's hashtag F2, and I can just type that information here, and it's gonna, once I type that in, it's gonna pop that color into this space here, like this. So once I have that, I can save it in my brand palette, my brand kit, as they call it, and I would have it forever. I don't have to come back here to change that again. Also, you asked about when you create designs. So on my home page, way up at the top, it shows recent designs. So all of the content that I've created recently would show up here. Also, if I scroll down, I would see things that I've created or things that have been shared with me. This was shared with me by Jade, and I was able to log in, make the change. This is another one that was shared with me. I came in and I made the change, and it's now available to myself. It shows that I'm editing it. And also, if someone else logs in, it would show their name as being editing at the same time. So this is kind of like what Robert was asking. If you have a team of a number of people that are using it, they all would be shown as part of that. So if you have some content that you created before, maybe I created this design and now I want to use this for an actual Toastmasters event, right? The first thing I have to do is make sure all the fonts are Toastmasters branded. I have to make sure all of the shapes in here are, so there's a number of shapes in here I can show you guys. There's if I can get it to stop moving. Yeah, this shape, I can change things around. And the first thing I have to do is go into my brand kit and use a Toastmaster color. It's super simple. It's a lot simpler than many other, and I can use another brand color there. I have to change this color here to one of the brand fonts. And now, voila, I can also go to the text there. And now I'm Toastmaster. I'm brand compliant because now I have all the colors. This is an image, so it's fine that, you know, she has a lot of pink on the picture, but in terms of the actual design, we have the actual brand colors. Maybe I can add the logo. I can go to my upload folder. I can scroll past all the fancy pictures. And somewhere at the bottom here, I have a ton of pictures. I can drag and drop a Toastmaster logo because Toastmaster is such a strong brand. It automatically gravitates people to look at your designs. Typically, I would put the Toastmaster logo to the top of the screen. Why? It's because it's very prominent and it helps to draw the person's eyes. It's a highly recognizable organization. It more or less sells itself. But you can put the logo anywhere. Like Ryan mentioned earlier, you cannot have the logo something like this, or you cannot do something like this, or do any fancy stuff with the logo, or you cannot shrink it or stretch it. That's against the brand manual, and you can see all of that information if you take a look at the brand manual. Does that answer your question, Eva?
Yes, thank you, Leslie. That's really helpful.
Oh yeah, totally. So we have 7 minutes in our workshop. Would anyone like to share something that they've created? Because this is the purpose of this is, for us to have as much engagement. Would anyone like to share their screen and show us something that they've created, or something that a topic that we haven't discussed so far?
Use some of the template that I share with you.
No, I can. If you're on your computer, I can give you access.
No, I am on the cell phone. I am on the
Oh,
cell
okay, okay.
And Leslie,
Yeah, sure.
I think one of the hot topics, which I think some users are challenged with, is how to create a link on a flyer.
Okay.
So we covered QR codes, which is probably the ideal way to create a link so that somebody can actually use their phone and connect with the flyer that you're actually presenting digitally. But I think users are challenged with putting a link on a JPEG or a PNG file. It doesn't work. So what can be the workaround for that?
Yeah, so if you have let me see if I can find a design. So let me go to my home. So just to answer the question directly, the workaround obviously is to have, let's see, I'm pretty sure, yes. So right, so this is the updated flyer that I created for the youth leadership program. So what if we are actually we're actually exporting this out as a PDF? If you export this out as a PDF, you have an opportunity to make this this link here URL. All right, and so when you export, you instead of exporting it as a JPEG or a PNG, which you would put on Facebook, you can actually export it as a PDF. So when you export it as a PDF, this link here will become clickable, as opposed to if it's an image, because an image is just digital representation of a picture. So everything gets converted to a picture, as opposed to in the format of a PDF, you can actually, in the format of a PDF, where you can actually have a clickable link. So that's one way of doing it. Any other questions? Jade, is there anything else you want to add? We have like 5 minutes.
I think Bernadette potentially has her hand up, or maybe she's had her hand up for a while and I just forgot to put it down. Bernadette?
I think her hand was up before.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Sorry, I was saying that Leslie just answered my question. It was about a clickable link on the flyer.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's good.
Thank you.
Thank you. Lower hand.
Can I ask a question, please?
Yes, Naja.
Yeah, Naja.
How can you change the fonts on titles?
You want to change the font on the title? Yeah, I can show you that. So let's, for instance, this is the flyer that you've created, and you would like to change this font to a different font. Of course.
For instance, youth leadership, for instance, if I want to put the Y is capital, OUTH small, the L capital leadership, and the rest of the word is small. Program P capital, ROGRAM small. How can I do that? Can you please show me?
Oh, you want to make this smaller, a smaller font? Yeah, so if you want to change the font.
Leslie, I believe the question is, how do you make uppercase and lowercase?
Yes.
Oh, yeah. So,
yes, that's the my question. Sorry.
Yeah, you can just type.
In other words, it's no difference from Word or difference from any other text editor. If you hit Shift, then it's a capital. If you don't hit Shift, then all the words will be lowercase.
That's correct.
You don't have to change the font. The font.
Yeah, and if you're yeah, if you're looking to change the entire font, you can click on here. If you're, just to make it a little more obvious, if you want to change the entire the font completely, you can just choose different. Of course, we're talking about creating brand compliant content, so we don't have the luxury of just choosing any font from the library. You have to stick with one that's compliant. And if you did the wrong thing, like I did, you can just undo and get back to your design.
Yeah, I tried to do that last night with the subtitle on Zine for myself, and it won't allow me. It all was uppercase, not lowercase.
Yeah, so some designs, I know some designs, if you drag like an object, text object into your design, it only allows you, it forces you to have the content in uppercase. So maybe you'd want to create a separate text object, and then you can, then it's not locked into that sort of theme of in Canva. Very good, wonderful. Jade.
I would just like to say thank you to everyone for coming out today. If you have any questions, feel free to get in touch with Leslie, myself, or Ryan.
And for my part, I'd just like to wrap up, and then I'd leave the session open if anyone wants to stay back and chat. But I'd like to thank you guys for coming to this workshop. This is something I thought about at the beginning of the year, but very often the year gets so busy. We have an open house, just like to reiterate, we have an open house incentive where your club can get up to $75 US for running an open house. Last year, our open house incentive was only claimed by 8 clubs, just 8 clubs out of 160 clubs in District 1, 2, 3. So I'd like to challenge you guys to go ahead and, you know, organize an open house, use these tools that we've been talking about. You can connect with us, myself, Ryan, or Jade at any time through the district Facebook site or the district website. We would be more than happy to connect with you, answer your questions, provide more information. We will try to put more content on the website as well. And this is an honor and privilege to be able to, you know, provide this workshop to you. And I hope you have you found something in here that was useful to you and something that you can try in your own club. And thank you very much for coming, and thanks for making this workshop very successful today.